It's Cat Stanley Space Demon coming at you again. Now, we all know rocker Gene Simmons as the bassist vocalist for thunder rock legends Kiss. They're known for their straight-ahead approach to rock and roll and over-the-top theatrical performances. But you probably also know about some of Gene's legendary sexual exploits. His appetite for women. Now, back in 2001, Simmons claimed to have had over 4,600 sexual encounters and has had high-profile relationships with celebrities like Cher and Diana Ross. In 2011, Gene finally decided to cut out all that running around when he wed longtime partner and mother of his two children, former Playboy Playmate Shannon Tweed. But today I want to talk about an earlier relationship of Gene Simmons, one that he had with another future Playboy Playmate. So the year is 1975. Kiss is riding high on the success of their album Alive. The lead single from that album is all over rock radio, and they're out on the road taking their theatrical rock extravaganza across the country, selling out venues all over North America. Now, the first time the band played Las Vegas, after the show, the band made their way back to where they were staying in the old Stardust Hotel. They were standing in the lobby waiting to get on the elevator when a stunning blonde in high heels and a tight mini skirt caught the eye of Kiss drummer Peter Criss. Now, Peter gave Gene the old wink wink nudge nudge and motioned for Gene to check out this gorgeous young woman. Gene did just that, and after some quick eye contact and an exchange of smiles, in typical Gene Simmons fashion, he took the beautiful young lady by the hand, whisked her onto the elevator, and up to his room. Her name was Stow. She was born March 19, 1956 in Little Rock, Arkansas, and she'd always dreamed of becoming a star. The morning after, Gene suggested that she send some photos of herself to Playboy magazine impresario Hugh Hefner. She would go on to become Playmate of the Month for the magazine's February 1977 issue. 6 months later, she would reconnect with Simmons, joining him on the road. She would also appear in some publicity shots for the band. Now, Gene, who's a notorious teetotaler and very outspoken about his disdain for drug and alcohol use, was very dismayed over Star's drinking and usage of cocaine. Seems she had got caught up in the lifestyle of the Playboy Mansion parties filled with decadence and substance use. But like many rock and roll romances, the relationship was fleeting and the pair would lose touch. Stow would later go on to marry and divorce a guy called Peter Maligo. The two would have one child together, a child named Michael. He would be sent to live with his grandmother, and in 1986, Stow would move down to Florida to dance in titty bars. She would eventually fall back into drinking and drug use and even began working as a prostitute. Now, Stow would get sober in 1991, but after a particularly nasty breakup with a boyfriend 5 years later, she'd wind up back on the streets to find somebody new. Now, on the afternoon of March 16th, 1997, just over 20 years after her Playboy centerfold, Stow would go missing from her neighborhood in South Florida. She'd been turning tricks on the street, and her nude and lifeless body would be discovered in the bushes behind a pharmacy in the town of Coral Springs. She was just 40 years old. Her slaying was part of a string of serial homicides of fallen women in Florida between 1997 and 2001, known as the South Florida Serial Murders, which would go mostly unsolved. Now, Stow's homicide case remains open, and investigators are hoping that someone might come forward with some credible information leading to the arrest of the perpetrator or perpetrators. Now, Gene Simmons devoted about a page to their relationship in his 2001 autobiography, Kiss and Make Up. He said that some years after he and Stow had lost touch, he'd run into her at a Kiss concert. He said she'd gone through some hard times, implied that she was broke, and said she seemed sadder than he'd ever seen her. He said he looked her up years later and was stunned to find out that she'd quote unquote passed away. Now, it's a very sad story. The death of Stow, just 40 years old. It's a cautionary tale. And nowadays it seems like people want to glorify, the people they call them sex workers, people in the adult industry. But that type of lifestyle, it does have a dark side. And the story of Stow is definitely a cautionary tale. And it's very sad. Nowadays it's simply a footnote in history. There's been some documentaries about it, articles written about it, but it's very sad, tragic story. And I just wanted to relay that to you today for those of you who might not be familiar with the story of Stow and Gene Simmons. And hope you learned something today. Hope you dug the video, and we'll see you next time.